I graduated college, landed a six-figure job, maxed out my 401k for 4 straight years, and somewhere along the way, I realized something that really surprised me. Making $100,000 a year in 2026 is not enough for true financial freedom, at least not for the kind of life I'm trying to build. Now, before people take that the wrong way, let me be clear. I'm incredibly grateful for my job, and I fully understand how fortunate I am to be in a position where I can earn six figures and invest at the level that I do. I know that puts me ahead of a lot of people, and I never want these videos to come across as complaining. But I also want to be honest with you guys watching because I think a lot of people, especially younger professionals chasing their first big salary, have this idea that once you hit $100,000, all of your financial stress disappears and you've basically made it. That might have been the case in the early 2000s, but the truth is in 2026, that is not the case. If your real goal is financial freedom, which the way I define financial freedom is actually having control over your time, your decisions, where you live, then there are really three things that move the needle. One, increasing your income. Two, investing a large percentage of that income. And three, learning how to live below your means when your income goes up. Those are the big three, in my opinion, for achieving financial freedom. And I'm going to break them all down in this video through my own personal experience. Because while a $100,000 salary is absolutely a strong starting point, I think people celebrate it way too early like it's the finish line, when in reality, it is just the beginning. And maybe this sounds delusional, but I genuinely believe I can get to $200,000 a year within the next few years if I keep my head down and keep working as hard as I am, as long as I keep building up my skill sets, if I could keep pushing myself in the right situations. I'm going to speak it into existence, but more importantly, I'm going to work it into existence. So let me walk you through why making $100,000 a year did not change my life the way I thought it would. First, I'm going to explain where I actually want my life to end up, because that's the reason why $100,000 does not feel life changing for me yet. My goal isn't just to make good money for the sake of saying I make good money, it's to build a life that gives me options. I would like my fiance to be able to stay at home with her future kids instead of doing the daycare route. And look, I'm not saying daycare is a bad thing at all, because for a lot of families it makes total sense. But where we live, daycare for like two kids could easily be pushing $2,000 a month. And that's basically the same as rent. That's a massive expense. And if we can create a situation where she has the choice to stay at home because we're making enough money, that is something that I value a lot. Call me traditional, but I really want to live those old classic American dream values. And I'm not even going to pretend that buying a house is an option for us currently because where we live, starter homes are like pushing $500,000 plus, and it's just insane. However, I'm going to work hard to make that happen in the future. So I'm still trying to look at this from a realistic 2026 standpoint. We want 2 to 3 kids. We still want to invest. We still want some level of financial security. And I don't want to feel like every month is on survival mode. And I certainly don't want to be living off one paycheck. I want to have multiple streams of income. So when I actually run those numbers for my situation, I probably need to be bringing home around $8,000 a month after taxes to make the lifestyle that I want to live work and comfortably be able to have my fiance stay at home with the kids. 8,000 a month is a lot of money. That's why I'm making this video now, to let y'all know if you want a similar lifestyle, you're going to have to make a lot of money. When you start to scale that up, I'm kind of looking at like $175,000 is maybe that point where it starts to make sense. And I think that's the reality a lot of people are starting to realize now. It's getting harder and harder to live what people call the traditional American dream on just one income or maybe just even making six figs. The idea of supporting a family, owning a home, raising kids, investing for retirement, and still having breathing room financially just feels way harder than it probably did for our parents. But I still want that. I still want to be able to create that kind of life that I want. And if you want something similar, I think the conversation needs to start being how do I increase my income over the next 5 to 10 years? Because cutting out that $5 coffee each day is not going to make that big of a difference in the long run. Your income really matters, and so does avoiding lifestyle creep when that income starts to go up. So back to my first major point here for why I just don't think a $100,000 salary is life-changing for my situation is that it still doesn't fully buy the life that I'm trying to build, as I just explained to you guys earlier. And with how fast living expenses keep rising, I honestly think that number is only going to keep climbing. Reason number two is simple. I still have to wake up, go into the office, trade my time for money. And again, there's nothing wrong with that. That is how majority of people build wealth in the beginning. And honestly, that's exactly where I'm at right now. But when I talk about true financial freedom, I'm talking about getting to a point where my income isn't completely dependent on me showing up to a 9 to 5 every single day. I'm talking about having the ability to choose where I work, how I work, and eventually not feeling like every dollar I make is directly tied to the hours that I'm personally having to give up. That's the difference between making really good money and having true financial freedom. That's why I keep saying $100,000 is a great starting point for a salary, but it is not the finish line. Right now, my focus is positioning myself for that next level. That means going above and beyond at work, being a top performer, asking for harder projects, improving my leadership skills, and stepping up when opportunities show up instead of waiting for someone to hand me something. A lot of career growth comes from being the person people can trust when things get difficult, not just being a good when everything's easy. I'm confident that if I keep going down the path that I am, I'll put myself in a strong position to keep increasing my income and eventually get closer to achieving that financial freedom that I'm always talking about. At the same time, I'm trying to be smart with the money that I'm already making. I'm maximizing the company benefits that a lot of people really don't fully utilize. Things like the 401k match, the HSA, taking advantage of the years where my lifestyle costs are extremely low. That part matters because if you have strong income and you're not using the tools available to you through your employer, you're going to be leaving a lot of money on the table. I think everyone should be doing this, whether you make six figures or not, because building wealth starts with using the best tools available to you. But I'll also be honest here. There's only so much you can save your way out of. At some point, yes, disciplined investing matters. Yes, investing early matters. But increasing your income is what really speeds this whole process up. You can budget and cut expenses forever, but there's a ceiling to that. There's no ceiling to earning more if you keep developing and building your skills. That's why income growth has to be a part of the conversation if financial freedom is the goal for you. Everything here really comes down to perspective, and that's the beauty of talking about money. Everyone's definition of life changing money is different. That's also why I like having these conversations on YouTube, because I know people watching this are coming from completely different backgrounds, and I always like hearing your experiences down in the comments. For some people, $10,000 would be absolutely life changing. If someone is struggling to put food on the table, behind on their bills, trying to keep their head above the water, seeing 10 grand hit their bank account would completely change their life. For other people, finally hitting the six-figure salary mark is the big milestone that means they're no longer living paycheck to paycheck, that they can breathe a little, and that they finally feel like they're getting ahead. Then you got this very small group of people, maybe the number is like $10 million, because they grew up around wealth and their standard for freedom looks completely different. Thankfully, I've never had to worry about where my next meal is coming from or whether I could keep the lights on. So my definition of life-changing money has never been survival. It's been about financial freedom. And everyone has to define that for themselves because it looks different for everyone. For me, it means having control over my time, being able to live where I want, spend lots of time with my family, not feel like my entire life is dictated by having to put the time into the corporate machine. I'm not saying that I never want to work because I do love working, but I want to work because I choose to, not because I'm financially trapped to. That's why I say a $100,000 salary isn't life changing for me yet. It's not that it isn't a great income. It absolutely is a great income. It's that it's not enough to get me where I ultimately want to go, at least not by itself. It's a strong foundation, but it's not the finish line. So that's all I have for this video. If you are striving to achieve financial freedom, leave a like and comment on this video, and I'd love to chat with you about it. For those who stayed to the end and support this channel, thank you so much. I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace.